The Testament of Sherlock Holmes. This was released in 2012 and was the sixth game released of the Sherlock Holmes franchise from Frogwares. Now at the time of this recording, it is the seventh in the series Internal Chronology. And that's something you have to say for this series because, when you look down to it, all the Sherlock Holmes cases were not necessarily published in the timeline of when they happened. Well, you can understand what I mean there. I hope. Anyhow, this was a nice little addition to the series. It opens with a case involving a missing necklace that was stolen by a monkey, a trained monkey. And Holmes is helping an inspector that is not Lestrade or any of his usual, not Lestrade or not Grayson, whatever the name's supposed to be. And, he finds where the necklace got left behind. And then, the day after, when you find out that apparently the necklace is not the real one, which starts to lay doubt on us that Holmes knows what he's doing. Of course, this is also part of a conspiracy. This could be part of a conspiracy, as some people are trying to, of course, make him look bad, a news reporter, and all that. But Holmes, not necessarily shaken by this, continues, on because he had a meeting to attend to. He was going to meet, I think, with a bishop. However, when he gets there, they find that the bishop is dead. And he begins his investigation into this death and finds out that there was some foul play. And now it's looking weirder and it's looking stranger and stranger, I should say. Of course, this also starts to play on Watson, because he can't think of Holmes as the villain. But as it plays out, some things are not what they seem, it seems. Now, he's got three leads he's got to follow and trying to figure out what's going on because he suspects there's a poison in play. And there's only one man who would know how to make such a poison. And that is a master poisoner who's been held at a prison that's about to shut down. He's also got to look for the bishop's nephew, as well as finding out what happened to the ruffians whom he figures came from the Whitechapel area. Well, as things play out, things get on, of course, Watson's nerves, but we still find out more and more things. One of the ruffians is dead now. That's not good. and we end up apparently aiding in a jailbreak. However, the poisoner has succumbed to one of his own poison's effects, and they are able to keep him subdued. However, something happens in the process. And when they seek out the bishop's nephew, well, he's rather unstable at the moment, too. And unfortunately, he meets with a ghastly fate because of this. And no doubt, this is when things start to look really bad, as Holmes is getting implicated in these criminals' activities. The ones that were caught, well, they, quote, put the blame on Holmes. Holmes almost does something apparently foolish. And maybe this is him being affected by things too. Or maybe he's playing a part. He realizes somebody's trying to make him look bad, so he's got to do that as well, play the part well. I mean, they find the reporter, and they also find a judge who's been looking into him. Looking into Holmes as well, and as it turns out, he's the judge is actually a little bit more with it than others, than the reporter. The reporter is seeing what he wants to see. The judge sees something's not right. But before the judge can be, fully clear this up, he's killed, apparently by something Holmes left behind. So Holmes, quote, goes into hiding. And it allows them to find out, what's going on. And they find a group of anarchists who are making bombs, which is also a bad thing, especially for the area. Bad for London. And even they react to the name of Sherlock Holmes as the one who's telling them what to do. And we find out that the officer that we've been dealing with in this story is not to be trusted. Or at least we are about to be introduced to that fact, because Holmes kills him. And then Holmes stages his own death. Now, sometime later, there's some time that passes, and Watson goes in search of what was Holmes looking into, and he comes across Holmes. And this is where Sherlock tells Holmes what's been going on. It appears that the mastermind behind this whole plan is Professor Moriarty. He is moving in a way to cause an uprising that will, of course, kill the army off, his army off, sometime after they manage to do everything to cause chaos. And instill a new monarch who is a prince who's apparently been running a soup kitchen, soup cart thing for Whitechapel. The poison that's meant to, put these people into a state is supposed to go out that night. There are bombs set at 4 points in England. 4 major points in England. And so what happens then would happen is that this coup and all this destruction will allow this prince to be moved into place, and Moriarty can play him like a fiddle. And yes, it's Moriarty behind it. And what better way to get your biggest adversary out of the way than having him declared a fraud? And if any of your men get caught, well, the name all of them have been fed as their boss is Sherlock Holmes. Not the first time that someone has claimed to be Sherlock Holmes to get something from someone, to get help from someone, to even spy on Sherlock Holmes, or to detain him or find out if they're going against him. And so, Holmes must now stop this plot. This means, of course, getting past the guards, which involves some trickery and knocking them out or subduing them in some way, incapacitating them in some way. Watson ends up making another bomb, which also allows them to figure out how to deactivate the bombs. And Moriarty, for a moment, looks like he's not the one in control. But maybe there's something to that. So once we now know about the bombs, Holmes and Watson manage to contact Lestrade. And of course, Holmes uses reason with Lestrade to, make him see reason that Holmes is not the one being caused by all this, and that, of course, he's not dead. And then they move on to the ultimate plan of saving the day. They defuse the bombs. They didn't take the remaining bomb and get it down to the soup kitchen, almost being beaten to that by Moriarty being ahead of the game and jamming things up. And what I have to say on this one is it just shows cleverness. Once they do blow up the factory, the soup factory, they move on to getting back to the headquarters of Moriarty's operation. Not sure where everything stands. Moriarty has apparently survived the blast, as he's ready to finally end this between him and Holmes. And Holmes asks Moriarty one question. Was the poisoner immune to his own poison? The answer is no, because the poisoner jumps out of the shadows and attacks Moriarty before he can shoot Holmes, landing a very lethal blow on Moriarty before Watson and Holmes, before they can actually stop the poisoner. And here is when you see something very unique, or not so unique. It depends on how you view it. Moriarty is dying. He has been bested by his adversary. An adversary that he actually does respect. And Moriarty says to Holmes, "You're the only one worthy enough to raise her." Moriarty has a daughter. As a father, I can understand you will do whatever you can to give your child what you view as a better world for them. Moriarty, knowing that he has failed in this matter, deems that Holmes is the only man worthy to raise his daughter. Obviously, the mother's no longer in the picture. And so Holmes does take in the young lady. As the story plays out in the end credits, the ending of the story, that Holmes does raise her as best he can, giving her all the opportunities she has earned in life. And in the end, he raised her well. Of course, this is also revealed that because this whole story is in essence told by the grandchildren or the children of the grandchildren telling this story, reading this story when they found it. And so it ties in nicely. It could also serve as a nice ending to the franchise's timeline. Of course, there is two adventures past this in the series timeline. But when the 7th game came out, it was set prior to this. When the 8th game came out, it was set after this. In fact, it was set after the first game that came out, too. Well, the first game that was released is set after this one as well. And of course, when the 9th one that came out is set after this as well. Well, no, it's set way before this. It's chapter 1. But this is actually a very fine story, worthy of the Holmes lore. It is probably one of the few stories that they've done that can be, quote, officially written by Watson, as this narrative tells. This is a fine Holmes game. It's a fine Sherlock Holmes story. And that's all I'm going to say about it. It was a great adventure. I enjoyed taking part in it. And I hope you all enjoyed listening to me talk well about it. I mean, it had such beautiful things in it. Beautiful mechanics for figuring out the event of things. The timeline mechanic, which only got used in certain things. But it was a brilliant entry in the series. And I enjoyed it. And I thank you for listening to what I've had to say about this. And I hope you Tune in next week to see what I say about the next item I do a retrospective on. As always, this is Rich Kale here on YouTube, Rich Genetics elsewhere. Bye!